Hey guys, what's up? Welcome to another episode of the Coach Cody podcast. I'm here 2 weeks in a row again. I mean, technically, I have not really. I think I've only missed like 1 week of podcasting due to being ill. But hey, it was the first week in a second. I feel like I didn't have some sort of ailment. But the plus side is I did figure out what the situation was that was going on the previous week. It was medication induced. So we have found the problem. So that's fun. So I was taking this new medication that was prescribed to me for nerve pain. It was called gabapentin. And as someone who kind of like, I'm I'm pretty sensitive to medications. If there's a side effect that not a lot of people get, I feel like I'm the one that gets it. And so essentially, it just kind of made my digestive system just stop working. It affected the motility of my intestines, and man, I couldn't eat. I was nauseous, like nothing was moving. It was awful. I'll spare you more of the details, but I'm just glad I was able to figure it out. Not so glad I don't have a solution for that nerve pain situation, but I'll deal with the nerve pain because it's better to have nerve pain than a pain in your ass. So that's fun. I also started this thing called TMS, which is interesting. So it's basically a treatment for anxiety and depression, and they essentially electrocute your brain. I like to say it's kind of like a less invasive lobotomy. Just kidding, it's not, but wouldn't that be fun? But so yeah, you get your brain shocked. It feels very old school, like shock therapy, but it's not the same. It is different, a little bit different somehow. Maybe it's not, and they're just like, hey, here's a less weird way of just thinking we're gonna cure you of something. I don't know. But anyways, it's called TMS, and it's very strange. It's 5 days a week, which is definitely a commitment, and it's for like 36 weeks. But hey, if it works, awesome, because I have struggled with loads of anxiety my entire life, and I'm really willing to try anything at this point. So I'll keep you updated on that. I want to go into more detail, but I just want more experience with it first, so I can give more information about it, give my experience. I will probably talk about that sometime in the future, but just know I just started it. This is not something I have said to anyone. So if you are listening to this, that's because you will have the inside scoop. Anyone listening to my podcast, which is like all two of you, we're probably friends already, so maybe you even know this, but you will get the inside scoop of the TMS treatments moving forward if you stay tuned. You can also ask me questions if you would like. But it's funny, I also hesitate talking about things like anxiety and depression in public as a trans man, because it's basically fuel for trolls, right? They're already telling me I'm mentally ill. They're already asking me when I'm going to kill myself. And I'm like, hey, I am already anxious and depressed. And it's there's like this little inkling of like, man, I don't want to prove them right. But at the same time, I'm not anxious and depressed because I'm trans. I'm anxious and depressed because I'm a human, right? There's plenty of cisgender people out there who are also taking, medications for anxiety and depression. And never have I ever said that transition was a cure for anxiety and depression. Has it helped? Tremendously, yes. But being a human means you still have to live life like a human. We're just, trans people are just like anyone else, and we are just as susceptible to life, which can be hard and it can suck sometimes. So if everyone can just allow life to suck for people and get through things in the way that they need to get through, that would be great. So again, it's funny, I get anxiety about talking about anxiety and depression as a trans man, but it, at least with transition, it's not related to like feeling unaligned in your body, like all those like body dysmorphia issues, or body or gender dysphoria, as you would call it for trans folks. You can have, there's body dysmorphia, and then there's gender dysphoria, and they're very close sometimes. Like, you can be a trans person who has both, like probably me, because I'm a bodybuilder and I'm never big enough, right? So you kind of just always have some issues, but that's also being human. But anyways, enough about that. I just want anyone and everyone to know that it doesn't matter who you are, what you identify as, you're still a human, and life's gonna kick your ass sometimes. And it's okay to feel anxious. It's okay to be depressed sometimes. There's nothing wrong with you. It's just a human experience. We're all on this earth together. None of us are getting out of here alive. So we just gotta try to do the best we can. Anyways, the topic that I really wanted to talk about this week is plateaus. So, what is a plateau? Are they even real? Yeah. How do you get through a plateau? So, if you identify that you are in a true plateau, how do you get through it? And I just want to say, I feel like plateaus, they happen. So, they are normal in a fitness journey. But I wouldn't even say that they're real to the extent of usually plateaus just tell you you need to adjust something, whether that's your nutrition or your training or your recovery. So it kind of just shows you what you need to do. It's not this dead end. It's no reason to freak out. It's just sometimes your plan needs adjusting. It's normal. It's okay. So how do you identify a true plateau? And then if it is a true plateau, how do you get through it, right? So true plateaus, usually it's impatience and it's not an actual plateau. And so true plateaus are actually something that lasts several weeks to months. So just because maybe you didn't lose weight in 1 week, that doesn't mean that you hit a plateau. It's just that this week you might have just kind of stayed the same. So it's okay. You don't have to freak out. This is a thing that if it's been weeks and months, okay? So be patient. I know it's not easy, but chill. It's fine. So how do you also determine whether it's a plateau or impatience? It's just you have to be honest with yourself. This is the hardest part to identify because, sometimes we're not completely aware of our own bullshit, but we can be, making sure we're tracking progress and all that stuff so that we can audit what we're doing. But sometimes, you just gotta face your bullshit, and that's not easy. And, depending where you are, if you're more advanced, it's going to take more time. If you're looking to build muscle, that is the most time consuming phase of fitness to be in. It's going to take much more time than fat loss or weight loss. Like if you have a lot of weight to lose, you're going to see progress pretty quickly. And eventually it's going to slow down just because you have less weight on you. You're a smaller body now. So it's going to take a little bit more effort to keep losing weight, and it's not going to be at the same rate forever. So just know that things slow down. They always do. And it's actually a good thing if things slow down, because that means you at least made progress from the start, and you didn't just like if you're never making progress, then you never got started. So you can't hit a plateau if you never get started, right? So let's talk about what we need to audit in order to, one, determine if we're in a plateau, but then two, determine how to get out of it. So the first thing you're probably going to want to audit is your training intensity. So this is huge. I feel like it's often overlooked because we are mostly focused on consistency, and we're like, hey, I've been going to the gym every day or 5 days a week for 3 months now. Why am I not seeing progress? Well, consistency is great, but if you're just consistently going through the motions and you are not consistently putting in effort, pushing up the weights, challenging yourself, like it should be hard. Workouts, you don't have to be like in a puddle of sweat feeling like you're dying, but they're not supposed to tickle either. It's gonna be a little bit uncomfortable, or a lot. Discomfort's okay. It's okay to be uncomfortable. That is how you grow, and it's no different in the gym, right? So progressive overload, you want to make sure that you are pushing up the weights. In the beginning, it'll probably be from week to week. As you get more advanced, it's not going to be from week to week. It's going to take a little longer. So patience again. But make sure you are practicing progressive overload, going up in weight, using better form. I'm like, my brain's like, what? More sets, more reps, progressing volume, that sort of thing. And just like the intensity part of it is making sure you're going heavy enough with the weights. If you feel like you can do like 10 more reps after you finish a set, that is way too light. Up the weight. You should be feeling like you can hardly get 1 to 2 reps at the end of a set. That is how you should be pushing yourself. Like, you should be like, oh my gosh, am I gonna drop this on my face? That's the feeling you need. And of course, it's scary and it's gonna take a second for you to be able to get to that point where you feel comfortable with that discomfort, to where you're like, I might drop this on my face, but I probably won't because I've not done that yet. Or you can ask someone to spot you to ensure that you don't drop it on your face. But that's also not a guarantee because there's a lot of awful spotters out there. But just to say, you should be a little scared when you're lifting. That's the best way that I could put it. All right. Don't hurt yourself, but challenge yourself. All right. So the next thing to audit would be your recovery. And are you getting enough sleep? Are you getting enough quality sleep? Are you working out too frequently without giving yourself rest days? If you're working out 7 days a week, chances are you're going to have at least 1 to 2 days that are just bullshit volume that you'd be better off resting instead. So that's another thing that just, if you're doing too much volume, a lot of it's going to be junk volume, and and your body cannot recover properly if you're working out every single day. So it's better to work out like 4 or 5 days a week, insert some rest days in there so that your body has time to recover. Again, we break down muscle in the gym. We grow muscle at rest during recovery. And also, you have to know yourself a little bit with this one. It might take a while to really get to know how susceptible you are to certain things. Like, I'm really susceptible to stress impacting my workouts. So that might mean I might need to take a few extra rest days when I'm feeling extra stressed. And if you're someone who also is impacted by stress, like it impacts your recovery and your workouts, you need to be aware of that. Make adjustments as you need. Take an extra rest day if you're feeling like you got hit by a truck. It takes a bit to learn how to be in tune with your body, but with time, you start to learn how you're feeling. You start to be aware of signs of, overtraining, if you're not recovering properly. And sometimes, a lot of workout apps, I think, too, also have a little gauge of how you're feeling with that workout. So something to pay attention to is just like your energy levels in your workout. If they're consistently low, chances are you might need to back it down, take some more recovery days, especially if you're not sleeping well, especially if you have outside stressors, work stressors, that sort of thing. All right. So last but not least, I guess it's not necessarily last, but it's huge. Nutrition. This is where it's really important to be honest with yourself and really important to audit your nutrition. Like, is it on point? Are you more consistently on track with your nutrition, or are you more consistently off track? If you're not seeing the results you want, chances are you're probably more consistently off track, because the results we see are a product of what we are most consistent with. So, we're pretty good at lying to ourselves to a certain extent, but when you stop seeing progress, that's where you kind of have to face your actual actions. What you're doing versus what you think you're doing can sometimes be two completely different things, and it's hard. We don't calling yourself out on your own bullshit is never easy. It's another one of those uncomfortable things, but it is a necessary part of this journey. I mean, it's a necessary part in life. You're not going to grow as a person. You're not going to grow in your career or etc. if you're not aware of, say, like your weaknesses and your strengths, right? So make sure you're staying aware of what you're actually doing nutritionally, dialing it in. Are you not logging certain things because you're afraid, because you don't want to see that you overate? Are you just kind of snacking on things here and there, a few bites here and there? That shit adds up. It really does. And then, weekends. A lot of folks are a lot more social things happening on weekends. Dining out, not knowing, how many calories are in the food, which is fine. Maybe like once a week, dining out, not knowing the calories, having a good treat meal. It's all about balance as well. But if, you're doing it multiple times a week, that's when it's going to be an issue, and it's probably going to impact the progress. So determining what is the reality of what is going on, what you're willing to sacrifice to move forward, and just making sure, first of all, that your goals are aligned with your lifestyle. If you really prioritize your social life and that it's something that's very, very important to you, it's probably not going to be realistic to be like, I want to be shredded, six-pack abs, unless you're that person who is okay with like bringing their food to restaurants or choosing healthy foods at restaurants when you do eat at them. And there's usually always at least one healthy menu item that you can eat or customize to your liking or more geared towards your goals. But basically, like, the more advantageous the goal is, the more sacrifice it's going to take on your end. So just keep that in mind when you're making your goals. Don't get too crazy if you're like, actually, like, my social life is way more important than abs. What are your non-negotiables? Think about that and then make those goals and align them how you can. Yeah. So basically, all the ways to stay aware and be able to audit these things, that includes tracking your progress. And if you're not tracking your progress, it can be really hard to actually honestly look at things. So that's going to be basically foundation step one: track your progress. Use an app to track your weights to make sure you are progressing in strength. Use an app to track your food so you know what you're eating, your portion sizes are proper, you've been doing what you need to do nutritionally so that there's nothing left up for question. And track your progress, like progress photos, measurements, weight, that sort of thing. Those are all things that are going to help you see your progress, even at times when you feel like you're not making progress. I can't even, like, I've lost count of how many times someone has come to me being like, I am not making progress, I feel defeated, and then I look at their progress photos from when they started to where they are now, and I'll like send it to them and be like, are you sure? This is a pretty drastic difference, because our brain will play tricks on us. And sometimes even having those progress photos, you're not going to see it yourself. So that's where sometimes like an outside perspective might be helpful, whether it's a friend, a coach, family member, whatever. Have them take a look at it, because our brains, remember, our body's dysmorphia can really distort the image you have of yourself. So get another perspective if you need to, but definitely please take progress photos. If nothing else, take progress photos when it comes to physical changes, if you want to see those. How your clothes are fitting is also a way to kind of gauge progress. I would say that instead of taking measurements, you could probably just pay attention to how your clothes are fitting, because measurements, I swear to you, are like the last thing that I ever want to do. I hardly do measurements because I do take progress photos every week. So it's easier for me to see my progress. But how your clothes are fitting, I feel like, is a good little substitute to taking measurements if you're not someone who likes taking measurements. I mean, who does? But if you're going to skip something, and if it's going to be measurements, pay attention to those clothes, and at least please take progress photos. All right. So that is all the things you need to audit yourself honestly, to figure out if you're in a plateau, how to get out of the plateau. But then there's also your mindset. And we talked about patience, right? Is it a plateau or is it impatience? This is going to be part of the mindset. And just, you have to know going into these things, it's going to take time. Anything worth having is going to take time, but time is going to pass anyways. So you might as well keep working towards your goals. You can't fail unless you quit. So it's all about, even, it's okay to be discouraged sometimes, but try to stay positive, believe in yourself, believe in your capabilities, and believe in the process, or trust the process. And just know that if you keep moving forward, if you keep checking off those boxes, you're putting in the effort, you're auditing yourself regularly, you're going to keep moving forward, you're going to break through those plateaus, all right? So don't be scared of the plateaus. They happen, but they're not even necessarily real. It's not a permanent thing. It's just, how can you adjust things to keep moving forward? So don't be afraid. Yeah. Okay. So that's about it. It's kind of a quick one this week, but plateaus are one of those things I feel like everyone is super afraid of. Like, what's going to happen when I stop seeing progress? And well, you adjust. It's pretty simple. So it's all good. All right. Just got to be honest with yourself. All right. So that is it for this episode. Thank you so much for listening. If you have any questions, you're watching this on YouTube, make sure to leave it in the comments. And if you're listening to this and you want to give it a review, give it some stars on Spotify, on Apple Podcasts, I would love that. Super helpful. Or share it with a friend. And if you want to email me, email is in the show notes. If you have any topic suggestions, always welcome. You can DM me on Instagram as well. But until then, I hope you have an awesome week. Peace out. I'll talk to you next time.